What happened when an ancient human got pregnant? Imagine being a young woman 50,000 years ago. You live in a small, nomadic tribe of hunter-gatherers, tracking herds across the prehistoric landscape. And then, you realize your cycle has stopped. You are pregnant. In the modern world, this is usually a moment of celebration, quickly followed by doctor's appointments, ultrasounds, and a deeply structured medical plan. But for our ancient ancestor, this realization brought a terrifying reality into focus. She was about to undertake one of the most statistically dangerous, biologically complex, and excruciatingly painful events a human being can experience. And she had to do it completely exposed to the elements, without a drop of medicine. To understand why ancient pregnancy was so dangerous, we have to look at a massive evolutionary flaw in the human body. Anthropologists call it the obstetrical dilemma. Millions of years ago, our ancestors started walking upright on two legs. This evolutionary shift was incredible for our survival, but it required the human pelvis to narrow significantly in order to support bipedal movement. At the exact same time, another massive evolutionary shift was happening. Our brains were getting bigger. Human intelligence skyrocketed, and with it, the size of human infant skulls expanded rapidly. Evolution had accidentally trapped us in a severe biological bottleneck. We had babies with massive heads trying to squeeze through incredibly narrow pelvic canals. If you look at almost any other mammal in the animal kingdom, childbirth is a relatively solitary and straightforward event. A chimpanzee, our closest living relative, will wander off into the jungle alone, give birth quietly, and walk back to her troop holding her newborn. The chimpanzee birth canal is wide enough, and the infant's head is small enough that the process is vastly simpler. But for a human woman 50,000 years ago, wandering off into the woods to give birth alone was almost certainly a death sentence. Human babies emerge facing backwards, away from the mother. This makes it virtually impossible for a human mother to assist in her own delivery, unwrap a tangled umbilical cord, or clear the infant's airway without help. This brings us to one of the most beautiful and defining characteristics of ancient human survival, the invention of the midwife. Long before hospitals, sterile operating rooms, or medical degrees, early humans realized they could not survive childbirth alone. The fossil record and modern anthropological studies of uncontacted tribes suggest that cooperative breeding, the act of women helping other women give birth, is one of the oldest human traditions. When our pregnant ancestors' contractions began, she did not go off into the wild alone. Instead, the experienced women of her tribe would gather around her. These ancient midwives didn't have medical textbooks, but they possessed generations of deeply ingrained, intensely practical knowledge passed down around the campfire. They knew how to physically support the mother, often having her squat or kneel rather than lie on her back, utilizing gravity to help pull the heavy infant through the narrow birth canal. They knew how to massage the abdomen to encourage the baby into the correct position. They knew how to physically catch the infant, clear its airway, and safely cut the umbilical cord using a sharp piece of flint or obsidian. But even with the best ancient midwives, the dangers were immense. Without modern sanitation, the risk of infection was astronomical. A simple tear or a retained piece of the placenta could result in a massive bacterial infection, leading to a slow, agonizing death from sepsis in the days following the birth. Furthermore, if the baby was breech, coming out feet first, or if the birth canal was simply too narrow for the infant's skull, there was no surgical alternative. There were no ancient cesarean sections that a mother could survive. In these tragic scenarios, both the mother and the child were almost guaranteed to perish. Archaeologists frequently uncover the heartbreaking remains of ancient women who died in childbirth, their skeletons forever curled around the tiny bones of the infants they couldn't deliver. It is a stark reminder of the brutal toll that reproduction took on early humans. What do you think is the most terrifying part of living 50,000 years ago? Let me know in the comments below. It's truly wild to think about how much we take for granted today. Because of these incredible risks, early humans desperately sought ways to understand and control the process of reproduction. There is a common misconception that ancient people were completely ignorant about biology, that they didn't understand where babies came from until complex civilizations arose. This is entirely false. Ancient hunter-gatherers were expert observers of the natural world. They tracked animal migrations, understood the life cycles of plants, and absolutely recognized the biological link between sexual intercourse and pregnancy. They also actively practiced early forms of birth control. Managing the size of a nomadic tribe was crucial for survival. If a tribe had too many infants at once, they wouldn't be able to travel fast enough to follow the food, and everyone would starve. Early humans used prolonged breastfeeding as a natural contraceptive, a biological mechanism that suppresses ovulation and helps space out pregnancies. They also possessed deep botanical knowledge, utilizing specific plants and herbs that they believed could prevent conception or induce miscarriages, though the effectiveness and safety of these ancient concoctions were highly variable. If you are fascinated by the incredible survival stories of our ancestors, please drop a like on this video. It tells the algorithm you appreciate real history and helps the channel grow. Once the child was finally born, the danger was far from over. The first few years of an ancient human's life were a terrifying gauntlet of survival. As we've discussed before, child mortality rates were catastrophic. Roughly a quarter of all infants did not survive their first year, succumbing to exposure, malnutrition, or infectious diseases that their tiny immune systems couldn't fight off without modern vaccines. To give their infants the best possible chance of survival, ancient mothers engaged in intense, continuous physical contact. The concept of putting a baby down in a crib in a separate room would have seemed insane to an early human. Babies were carried constantly, usually strapped to the mother's body in a sling made of animal hide. This constant physical contact regulated the infant's body temperature, provided immediate access to breast milk, and kept them safe from the incredibly real threat of predators. It also ensured that the infant was constantly immersed in the social life of the tribe, hearing language, observing facial expressions, and beginning the long, slow process of integrating into the complex social web that defines the human experience. The story of ancient pregnancy is not just a story of pain and danger. It is the ultimate story of human cooperation. The fact that any of us are here today, sitting comfortably and watching a video on the internet, is entirely because thousands of generations of women faced the terrifying ordeal of the obstetrical dilemma. They did it in the cold, they did it in the dirt, and they did it by relying completely on the knowledge, empathy, and physical support of the women around them. The next time you see a modern hospital, take a moment to appreciate it, but also take a moment to respect the sheer resilience of the ancient mothers who built the human race without one. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the hidden realities of human history, and I'll see you in the next one.